Welcome back to the Yet to Be Named podcast. If I'm going to be doing this on a regular basis, like I've started doing, I need to come up with a name for this. And I've kind of thought about it, but I haven't really come up with a good name. We'll get that nailed down here soon. And speaking of podcasts, for those of you that may not be aware, YouTube does have a podcast section. And so these videos where I'm doing kind of this talking head video, not the reviews or the how-tos, but these talking head videos I'm doing, I'm listing them under the podcast section as well. So you can watch the video version of this, or you can go download the podcast and just listen to the audio version if that's something that you prefer. I know I do every now and then I'll throw some graphics up on the screen. If I do, I'll make sure I cover them or describe them enough so that if you're listening to the audio only version, you're not completely lost. Anyway, got some topics to discuss with you guys today, and I'll do a quick rundown so you know what's coming up. I'm going to talk about some upcoming changes for the new season for the ACO, ACL. Some of it has been announced, some of it is rumors, but I'll kind of share what I know, my thoughts on that, my opinions on that. I want to talk about PPR versus DPR. I got asked a question last week by one of you to which one of those metrics is better for determining who's a better player. And so I got some thoughts on that. I thought it was a great question, so I'll share that with you. There's a new cornhole practice app out there that I've been made aware of. I want to bring that up, explain to you what I know about it, and get your feedback on that, and then discuss some upcoming videos or ideas for some upcoming videos. And then last, I'll cover some of the new bags that are coming out for the new seasons here. So let's go and jump in and talk about some changes. The ACO recently announced that they're going to be doing tiers for their majors and regionals. There's going to be 5 tiers, which is, I like this. I talked about this in my Cornhole's Broken video that I would love to see the ACO come out with tiers. I think every player going into one large pool can be discouraging to new players, and so they're going to have tiers. There's some questions I have, but first I'll talk about tiers. They're going to have 5 tiers. We'll start with the tier 5 is if you have anything under a 5 PPR, you're in tier 5, which they're breaking the tiers down by PPRs, I guess, if I didn't explain it. Anything under 5, you're in tier 5. Anything under a 6.75 or 6.75 and under, you're in tier 4. Tier 3 is a 8 point or anything under an 8.5, 8.49 and under is tier 3. Tier 2 is anything above that, and then tier 1 is the pro field. So tier 2 is kind of your advanced level, but non-pros. Tier 1 is pros. What I don't know is, you can, from what I understand, you can play up a tier, you can't play down, which makes perfect sense. So if you just want to go in and play against the best players, you can play up in that tier 2. Tier 1, I'm not clear on as to whether it's only pros or non-pros are allowed, because I'm not sure the difference between tier 1 and tier 2. If you're going to allow non-pros in tier 1, then why not just make that all one tier? So I'm not quite sure on the differences on there. I'm not sure about the payouts. I'm also not sure how the payouts going to work. If only tier 1's getting paid, or if they're going to do payouts on all the tiers. That's something that I really haven't heard them discuss that yet, so I'm not quite sure how it's going to work out. Also, I'm not sure about the points. I know you're going to get points for those who play ACO. You get your world points, your ranking points, and I think from my understanding is you're going to get points for that tier. So if you place in tier 3, you're going to get points for tier 3. But if you get moved up throughout the season, if you start playing better and you get moved up to tier 2, then I don't know if you're starting over points at 0 there. I'm not sure how that's going to work. So this could affect people if you start improving throughout the season and moving up. That's questions that'll have to be answered. The other thing I don't know is the PPR designation, is which PPR they're using. Are they using your overall Scorholio PPR? Are they using just your PPR for that season, which would make more sense if it's only ACO events they use? But I don't know how that's going to handle the first few events of the year, or the first event you go to. I guess you can be put in that tier 2, and then once you get a PPR, then it'll bring you down. Or are they going to use the PPR? Because I'm guessing they're going to have to run some sort of rounders before the event, possibly. I don't know if they do run some sort of rounders before. Then maybe it's the PPR and those rounders that'll tear you out. I'm not sure how that's going to work. That's something we'll have to figure out. But again, I know some people have kind of been adamant they don't like the tiers. It's kind of, that people have that philosophy of if you want to be better, throw better, right? You want to play the best, and you can still do this. I'm saying you can still tier up. You can go into the top tier if you want to, or at least tier 2. I don't know if you can go with the pros or not. I hope you can, because one of the beautiful things about cornhole is that we have access to the pro players. We can go to these tournaments and we can play against these pro players, and there's very few sports where you can actually go head to head against one of the pros in that sport, and I love that about cornhole, and I don't want them to take that away. I don't think they are. I guess I'm just confused on the difference between tier 1 and tier 2, other than tier 2 does not allow pros, which that may be the difference. And maybe if you want to play in the top tier, but you don't want to play against the pros, maybe you choose tier 2. but we'll see. I don't know I don't know if there's going to be 5 tiers at every regional, because I don't know if every regional have enough people to fill out 5 tiers. So we'll have to see how that breaks down. If only 2 people show up for tier 5, do they get moved up to tier 4 and combined in there, or how that works out? So a lot of questions to still have. We'll have to see how it plays out. I'm encouraged. I like the idea, mainly for new players, because new players come in, it's better for them to play against people who are at their skill level. It's less discouraging, because at least, even if they lose, at least they're competitive. If a new player shows up and their very first game is against an elite level player and they get destroyed 21-0, it's not that encouraging, especially if they play their first 2 games and lose 21-0 in both those games, and then they're done for the tournament. That can be very discouraging for them, and maybe can deter them from coming back for another event. So love the fact that they give you the option to play against your skill level, but you can always play up if you want to. So looking forward to see how that works out. On the ACL side, this is rumors. I guess they're rumors. I've talked to some sources and heard some. I haven't confirmed this with the ACL directly. I'll say that. I've been confirmed from other people, but not directly from the ACL. But my understanding is the ACL is going to be shrinking down the pro field. And the way they're doing that, from what I've been told, is they're offering, there's 256, or in the last year, there was 256 ACL pros. They're offering out 256 spots this year. But every year, not everybody who qualifies accepts being a pro. And I'll get more into why they may not here in a moment. Some of you are probably like, well, if you earn pro status, why don't you want to be a pro? I'll talk about that here in just a moment. But from my understanding is, in the past, if someone didn't accept, they went to the next person. Number 257 got offered number 258, and they kept going on the list till they filled the 256 spots. My understanding this year is they're not going to do that. They're offering the 256, and that's all that's getting offered. If someone declines to accept that pro spot remains empty. I don't know why they're doing this. I've heard some people speculate that it has to do with the money, and the thought is, if there are less pros, then each pro will get more money. I don't believe that. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's really logical thinking, and that's because sponsors pay the pros what they feel like that pro is worth, what they feel like that pro is giving back to them. Just because there's less pros doesn't mean that pro is going to bring a bigger investment, a bigger return on their money. So why would they pay them more? For example, if you have $256,000 in the pro field of 256 players, in theory, every player gets $1,000. But if that number drops to 176,000, or that number drops to 176 players, that 166 players is not necessarily going to get the full $256,000, right? That may drop down to $176,000. So each player is still getting $1,000, right? Because there are some companies that only sponsor the lower pros, they don't want to pay up for the elite pros. And also, a lot of these companies sponsor non-pros, elite, advanced level players, because sometimes those players are a better return on the investment, because they're actually out there at the local events and the league events, and they're really promoting regionally their bags and their company, and that can sometimes be a bigger return on the investment than the pro player who has a lot of different sponsors, and they're more focused on the game and not so much promoting the company, the sponsor, if that makes sense. So I just don't see where, when you cut the pros down, you're going to cut the amount of money going into the pro division. I think from the sponsor side, you're just going to have more money being allocated out to the elites and the advanced players. The other problem I have is, the ACL last year, the world singles, the women's world singles champion was not an ACL pro last year. So you're telling me they picked 256 pros, but they didn't get the best female player in the sport, right? They left them out. There were 2 elite players that won on the pro shootout side as well. So there are quality players outside that 256. So either the ACL is not doing a great job of picking the best 256, or there are some great players that are leaving out with 256. And it means if you shrink that down, you're leaving some elite level players, some pro quality level players out of the pro field. And if I'm the ACL, I want the best players I can get playing on the pro division. And so shrinking that down, I think you're going to end up not having you're going to end up leaving more of them out, and that can be an issue. Now, on the other side of that, I would say, talking about the money wise, I really think these pro players need to go out and find their main sponsors shouldn't be bad companies. I don't think bad companies should be the number one sponsor for these players. They need to be going out and finding these bigger companies that are outside of cornhole and bringing them in. Coca-Cola, Monster, Red Bull. These companies that Nike or Reebok or Adidas or bringing these other companies out and pulling them into the sport. That's not an easy thing to do. And I'll speak from my standpoint on this, that I have reached out to some of these companies outside of the cornhole world and tried to bring them in to sponsor my videos. And I will say these companies are interested in coming in. Some of them are. Some of them just never responded back. But there are a lot of companies interested in coming into the cornhole world. They just don't know the value in the cornhole. They don't know where to put a value on a sponsorship. And so that's where you've got to sell yourself. That's where these pro players have to sell themselves. That's where I've taken the path of doing affiliate marketing in some of these. So you'll see that, the t-shirts, the TeePublic that I've done, it's an affiliate marketing. So I only get paid if you go through my link, go through my shop and make a purchase. That's the only time I get money back. So there's no investment on them unless I give them value. And so it works better for it. An affiliate link is better for the company. And I think doing that for a period of time will actually show these companies that there is value in the cornhole world. We'll have to see how it plays out, but these pros are going to have to, if these pros want to make a full-time living playing cornhole, they've got to put some legwork in to go bring these companies in outside of the cornhole world. The other thing the ACL can do is allow these pro players to highlight their sponsors. And what I mean is when you turn on ESPN2, CBS Sports Network, and you watch a broadcast, the pros are wearing the ACL jerseys, and the big logo is the Bush's Baked Beans. That's what you see. And that's not a player sponsor. That's the ACL sponsor. That's not fair to the player, right? The ACL has to allow the players to be representing their sponsors big on their jerseys, unless Bush's is going to pay these players out. For being on that broadcast, and I don't think they do, and maybe I'm mistaken on they do. I think the ACL can put their sponsors on the jerseys, but the players should be allowed to put their main sponsor as that main logo, so that when you're watching that, you see their sponsor on the jersey, because these players are selling these sponsors by saying, hey, it's a chance to be on ESPN2, a chance to be on CBS Sports Network, to their sponsors. But if their sponsors have these little small logos, I think they have a chest logo on one side and they have 3 or 4 down here on the back, but no one sees those small logos. If you watch those broadcasts, you don't notice those small logos unless you're really looking for them. And sometimes it's hard to really tell what they are. And so I think that is part of what's preventing some of these pro players from getting these major sponsors, because if I'm Monster and I'm going to sponsor a player, I want my logo to be the main sponsor on the jersey, not Bush's Baked Beans, and have mine as a small logo down there. So that's something that I think we're going to have to see. The ACL is going to have to be willing to compromise and allow the players to sell the space on the jerseys. They let them do it when they're streaming in the opens and stuff, when they're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, stuff like that. They can do that. When it goes on the main broadcast court, and it's on a network channel, that's when we start seeing the ACL jerseys, and I feel like that's got to change. The ACO does it as well. The ACO has their jerseys, and they're not allowing these players to represent their sponsors. So I think both leagues really need to have a hard look at that and see, is there a way that they can change the jerseys to allow these players to represent their sponsors better? And I think that'll help the players bring in more money, which in return will help the sport grow. Because if you can get more full-time players, more players invested in the sport, that's their livelihood. They're going to become better players. Better players makes better games, better competition, which is better to watch. So in all, it's going to be a better growth for the sport overall for both these leagues. Now, one thing I do want to touch on, and I'm going to bring this up here for you guys, is Jeremiah Ellis made a post on Facebook, and I have the utmost respect for Jeremiah Ellis, because he was very real in this post, and this is going to kind of go back on what I talked about, why some pro players may not accept the pro slot in the ACL. And on this post here, for those who are on the audio version of it, I'll read on. For those in the video, I'm going to jump down kind of the middle way on this post here. So it's a long post. He's thanking his sponsors, talking about the great season he had, and what he's accomplished and all that stuff. But then he kind of midway through, he says this, and I'm going to quote what he said. I'm just going to read this so I don't misquote him. Going to be some decisions to make about my future going forward. The amount of travel this dream takes with a full-time job is brutal. I'm going to have to sit down and really think of what I want out of all of this, because the amount of time away from my family and my job, just not being supportive much towards the end, I'm not really sure how to approach the coming season. I truly believe the universe will take me where I'm supposed to be, where I'm supposed to. I just got to follow my heart. So this is a very real post. I love the fact that Jeremiah is not sugarcoating it. He's throwing out there that to be an ACL pro, even an ACO pro, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money. You're traveling, you're away from your family, you're away from your job. Most of these players are not full-time cornhole players, so they have full-time jobs. So you have to be able to have a job that allows you to have time off. You've got to have a family that's willing to let you take that time off, either to travel away from them or to go travel with you. So it's a big investment, money and time-wise. Now, for some of these players, they get the sponsorship that covers the cost of the travel, but still being away from the job, being away from the family can be very difficult. And so all these players are going to have to make a decision. And I think you're going to see it more. It seems like it's coming up more this year for these players, that they're going to have to make a decision on, because to be competitive in the cornhole world, you have to invest, you have to invest a lot of time practicing as well. You have to hone your game, develop your game, not just the time you play in tournaments. So there's a lot of time invested during the week where they're not on these broadcasts, not on the ACL, ACO events. They're at local leagues, local events, and they're playing, or they're in their, in their garage, their shop, their backyard, practicing, putting in time to get better at the game. And so that takes a lot away from a person. They're doing, all of these players are doing a 40-hour-a-week job or more, and then they're putting in another 20, 30 hours on top of that each week, which can be a burden. And so these players have to make a decision. Is this dream of playing cornhole? Is this a possibility to make, is cornhole a possibility to be a full-time job? Is this a reality, or is this just going to be a hobby? And is it going to be detrimental to them in the long term? Because not just the money they make, some of these elite players can make $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year playing cornhole, but that doesn't include the benefits. For those of you who have a job where you're getting health insurance and 401ks from your job, that's money, that's pay that maybe you're not realizing it's happening, but it's expensive. Health insurance is expensive. 401ks, if they're doing a match on there for you or putting money in for you, that's money that you're getting that these ACL pros, ACO pros are not getting on their side. That's money that they have to cover out of their own pocket, unless they have a spouse who has a job that has the insurance, those benefits for them, or maybe they're still minors and they're juniors and they're living with their parents and they can get away with that. But for those who are on their own, have a family, who are taking care of themselves, that's decisions they have to make, and that's going to be the area where I think you're going to see some of these pros start maybe not stepping away, but maybe not going full in. Right? They may still accept the pro status, but not attend as many events, which makes it tougher for them to qualify for the following season if they're not getting enough points to qualify. Or pro players might just say, you know what, it's better off that I don't become a pro, especially on the ACL side, because if they don't become a pro on the ACL side, they can then still play ACL Opens and regionals. They can also go play ACO majors and regionals as well there, and they can double dip on the ones that are local to them, which will reduce the amount of travel they can do and possibly make the same amount of money they're making in the ACL. So I think we're going to see some of these pros have to make real decisions about their future and the choices in their life. And we may see somebody, I would hate to see Jeremiah Ellis not be a pro in the ACL or not be a pro in cornhole, period. He is one of the most fun players to watch, very marketable. Like the ACL needs to market him. He has a personality. He's fun to watch. He's a great player. Like that's what the ACL needs. To lose him would be devastating to their league. So they've got to find a way to keep him there. And I don't know the answer. Like I said, maybe the jersey is an answer. Maybe there's other things they can do. I know, you look at the PGA, right? The PGA was losing players to Live Golf, so they ended up having to have these elevated events that paid a higher prize money, a higher purse to keep these players along, as well as they had other incentives to give more money back to the players because the Live was giving out more money, and and so players had to make a decision. I'm not saying that that the ACL is going to start doing these elevated events that are worth more, but maybe they got to find a way to share some of the money they're bringing in more so to these players, because I think the players are what's going to grow the sport more than these televised events, more than being on ESPN or CBS. These players are where it's going to be. The other thing the ACL is doing, and from what I've heard is, and I haven't confirmed this either, but they're reducing the number of opens. They're going to have fewer opens, and they're going to increase the number of nationals. So right now they play 4 nationals and a world championship. I think they're going to go to, my understanding from talking to some people who've heard, they're going to be 6 nationals, and they're going to have, I think they ran, I don't remember how many opens they ran this past year. They're going to reduce the number of opens. My issue with that is the nationals are pro only events. And so you're going to reduce the number of events that us non-pros can play, which is an overwhelming majority of the players out there. You're going to cut back on what we can play and put more for the pros, but the pros are already being stressed out with the 4 nationals and the 1 world championships. Giving them 2 more is not going to make it easier on them. So that's another decision that these pros are going to look at is I've got to go to more events. Now, the 4 nationals they play now, they take the top 3 places, the 3 that you do the best. They drop that worst one off when it goes to points. But if you don't go to a 4, you only go to 3, you have the pressure of those 3 have to be your best 3. Where if you go to all 4, you can have a bad weekend and not hurt you. And my understanding on the 6 is they're possibly going to take the top 4 scoring of those and drop the 2 lowest. So in theory, you only have to go to 4 events. But again, if you only go to 4, the pressure is on to make those 4 the best events and to do your best. So those who go to all 6 are going to have an advantage over those who only go to 4. So I don't like the idea that they're putting more stress on these pros by giving them more nationals. I would rather see more opens because the opens, again, more opens in more areas across the country. There's still a lot of areas in the country where the ACL doesn't play. Put more opens out there and expand to those areas so that you can draw in more players and grow the sport from the ground up. That's where your growth's happening, from those players being able to play those not willing to travel, right? If I'm a new player, I'm not even a new player, I don't like to go drive 3, 4, 5, 6 hours to go play an ACL Open. But if there's one 20, 30 minutes away, maybe even an hour away, I might go do that. I don't have a problem doing that. But to go drive, because if it's that close, I can go for the weekend. I can go for for the singles and then go for the doubles event, and I can come back home. So I can drive there, come back home. I don't have to get a hotel room. The travel costs are minimal. If it's 6, 7, 8 hours away, I got to drive. Now I've got to look at a hotel room. It's a bigger time investment that I have to make sure that I can get that time away from work, and then I can go invest that money to go play in a tournament that I'm probably not going to win, probably not going to get paid out in. So that's where you look at new players. They've got to make that decision, and I think having fewer opens is going to discourage the newer players from going to these opens as opposed to encourage them. The more nationals is not really, unless they're opening nationals up for everyone besides pros, which maybe that's what they do. Maybe they have nationals because they have fewer pros, and they have nationals, and they're going to let non-pro players in to some degree. I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes. My gut reaction is I don't like that. As well as if I'm a sponsor outside and I'm looking to come into cornhole and I see the ACL, the pro field is shrinking, and the number of events are shrinking, it doesn't look like the sport is growing. It looks like the sport is dying out. So the perception you put out there is not good. And that's going to make it harder for these pro players to bring these sponsors in if these sponsors are saying, well, this league is shrinking from what it did last year. It's doing less. It's not doing more. And that can cause some issues. So hopefully they'll figure that out. And again, this is speculation. I have not been able to get confirmation from the ACL on this. So I'm assuming they'll put more information out as we go. The new season officially, I don't think starts until September. And I don't think their first opens usually until October, late October or so, early November. So we've got time to figure that out. Real quickly before I jump into the next topic, I'm going to do a shameless plug for my Ko-fi page. If you want to support me, Ko-fi.com/MikesBags is a great way to do it. It's just like Patreon, but it's better because Patreon takes a good chunk of the fees. They charge a lot of fees. They take a good chunk of the money you send to Patreon and they keep for themselves. The creator doesn't get it. With Ko-fi, I pay a one-time annual fee, which is a very small fee, and then everything that you pay in comes to me, which I can dump back into my channel for reviews, for these type of videos, for the how-to videos. I'm trying to bring more content to you. Ko-fi is a big part of supporting me so that I can do that. $5 a month is all it is, and I do giveaways every month. I'll give away a set of bags. Recently I'm doing a set of bags giveaway and apparel giveaway. So I'm doing 2 giveaways every month for anyone who supports me. You can go in, you can become a member, $5 a month, or you can go and just do a one-time donation if you want to. Whatever month you donate, if it's a one-time donation, I'll make sure you get entered into the giveaways for that as well. I also have a shop on my Ko-fi page where I sell the used bags. So people ask me all the time, what do I do with these bags after I review them? Some of them I keep, some of them some of them I keep for myself. Some of them I've borrowed. I have to give them back. The others that I'm not keeping, I put on my Ko-fi page and I sell them. And I try to put them at a what I think is a good price for them, a fair price to sell them out. Members, if you're a member, you get first dibs on those. And then if they don't sell to the members within about a week, I open it up and then anyone can come in and buy their bag. So even if you're not a member, even if you don't want to pay the $5 a month, go to kofi.com/MikesBags. You can follow my page, which will give you updates when I put stuff out there that's available for non-members. It'll also give you access to the shop for the bags that are open to everyone. So check that out. Shameless plug. I appreciate you taking time to listen to that. Let's go and jump into the next topic, which is PPR versus DPR. And this is a question I got asked, I said last week. Someone sent me a message asking me about my thoughts on those and what's a better metric for determining who's a better player. And honestly, it's not a clear answer. I hate PPR being the be-all, end-all metric for who's a better player. If you have a higher PPR than me, you're a better player. That's not always true. It depends on the competition you're playing. Right? If I'm up there playing against people who just like to run bags in the hole, I'm going to have a higher PPR if I do the same. But if I play someone who plays a dirty style game, my PPR is going to come down. It doesn't mean I'm playing a worse game. It means I'm playing situational. Because sometimes the best play is a back block. Sometimes the best play is just to put a bag on the board as opposed to trying to shoot an airmail, which you may drag someone's bag in. So the best throw, the best play isn't always the bag in the hole. Sometimes the best throw is sometimes I want to throw a blocker, a lane side blocker for them, knowing that I'm not going to collect that, throw it over there, sacrifice that, put my next 3 bags in, knowing I'm only getting 10 points that round, but assuming that blocker is going to cause a problem, and maybe they're only going to score 4 or 6 points that round, and I'm going to maximize, where if I threw all 4 of my bags in and give them an open hole, they're putting 4 bags in, that we end up with a 12-12 wash, but with the blocker, and I'm throwing a 10, I may end up with a 10-8, 10-6 round, and I'm actually getting more points by putting less bags in the hole. So I hate PPR as being the way we rate players. Plus, PPR doesn't really tell you if you've won the game, right? Even if you throw a perfect 12, your opponent can still throw a perfect 12, and that game could just never end, right? It could be a tie, it could be a whatever. Like, your PPR doesn't tell you how the game ended. DPR, on the other hand, if I have a positive DPR in the game, I can't lose. I win every game that I have a positive DPR. So I love DPR as a metric because it tells me whether I win or lose. And so overall, if I have a positive DPR, it means I'm probably winning more games than I'm losing. Now, DPR can get skewed because if you play a player who's of a lesser quality, you can end up with a higher DPR in that game. But typically that game also lasts fewer rounds. So the higher DPR has a smaller impact in your overall metrics. But again, I prefer, when I look at stats, I'm always looking at my DPR over my PPR, because if I'm playing a dirty style game, I may only be putting up 8s. I may have a PPR of 8, but if my DPR is a +1 or a +2 or whatever it is, then I know I outplayed my opponent. Where if I'm just running bags, I could have a PPR of 10, but I could have a DPR of -1 because my opponent's on a PPR of 11 and they're beating me, right? So I love the metric of DPR as how well I played against my opponents. And to me, that's all that matters in cornhole, is how well you're playing against the opponent you're up there. Play to their weaknesses. Make them uncomfortable. Not let me play to my strengths and just hope I can outlast them. I like to play situational cornhole and adjust to my opponents, and that's where DPR shows me what I'm doing. So for me, DPR is a way more important metric than PPR. I could care less if my PPR is a 6. If my DPR is positive, that means I'm winning games, and in the end, the wins are more important than anything else. Now, when it comes down to how do you compare players, that's where it gets tough, because again, it depends on who you're playing. Like when you're playing your same local level and you're playing the same people, I think PPR and DPR can do a great job of comparison. When you're comparing yourself against someone who plays across the country or plays in a different local league, it can be a little skewed, because depending on the competition, if they have tougher competition, they might have a lower DPR, maybe in a lower PPR than you do. If they have easier competition, their DPR may be higher. So it's tough to compare across, it's tough to compare when you're in different leagues playing against different people. But locally, I think PPR, DPR does a great job. Honestly, I think SPR and Scoreholio is a wonderful metric. I know some people complain about it. SPR is basically, from what I can understand, it's basically an ELO rating, which is what chess uses and a lot of the e-gaming leagues use for ranking players. Again, it's awesome for local, regional comparisons, right? If the people you play all the time, SPR is going to be pretty daggone accurate. When you go outside of that, it may not be. Because if you're in a local league and you're all about the same skill level, you're all going to hover around that 50 SPR. No one's going to take off, especially if it's a smaller league. Whereas if you go to a league where it's a bigger league and a greater variety of players, you can really up your PPR if you're your SPR. You will increase your SPR if you're a better player, because you're going to be playing against, you're going to be beating more people and not getting beat as much. Whereas in that local league, we're all even. In theory, you're going to have a 50-50 win-loss record, which is going to keep you roughly around that 50 SPR. So I think locally, when you're comparing locally, SPR does a great job of that. I think the ACL is going to be coming out with some sort of ELO rating system for theirs in their app as well. I know they talked about it some last year. They haven't done that yet, but I think they're going to be coming out. So really, I think SPR is a great way locally. When you start comparing, nationally, globally, there really isn't a great way to do that. And that's where you have to look at the stats as a whole and see where player stats are, but also look at who they're playing against in their competition to make sure the stats aren't a little bit inflated. So hope that answers your question. Again, for me, when I'm out playing and I'm looking at my tournament, end of a tournament or end of a league night, I'm looking at DPR. That's all that matters to me is my DPR. If I've got a positive DPR, I'm happy. Negative DPR, I know I played bad. The next thing I want to talk about is there's a new practice app. Let me pull this up here. I don't even know the name of it. It is called Beyond Boards and Bags. I think it's out there for the Apple and Android devices. So on the Apple Store, the App Store on the Apple, and the Play Store on Google, you can pull it up and download it. It's a free app. The guy who created it sent this to me a while back, wanted me to try it out. I was going to do a video on it. For me, my practice time is when I go out and do recordings or videos. So I don't have a lot of time just to go out and throw bags and practice. I'm usually out there recording and practicing at the same time. So it's tough for me to use an app to keep track of. And so this is why I mentioned to you guys, but I would love for you guys to download this, go out and give it a try, and give me your feedback. Do you like this? Do you not? What do you like? What you don't like? Now, there's a lot of information. There's a lot of training tools on here that are not available yet. They'll say coming soon. So you have to, I think they're in the developmental stage of this app, but they've got the basic stuff in there. And what I do like about it, just looking at it, is it doesn't just keep track of your, like if you're doing a deck around, it doesn't just keep track of your score, but you can also put in when you're throwing inside arm versus outside arm. It'll give you your stats for inside versus outside. It'll also, what I can tell here is if you miss a bag, you can then put in that round. Was it your first bag? Was it your last bag? Was it one of the middle bags? What bag did you miss? And you can start seeing a trend. If you start seeing, hey, maybe you're missing that last bag every time. Maybe that's because you're losing focus or whatever. You can address that and take a look and focus on it. So I do love the fact that it gives you a little bit more in depth into not just what your score is, not just what your PPR is, but where is that coming from? Are you really throwing 12s on the inside, but 6s on your outside arm? And maybe you really need to work on that outside arm, right? So those are things that I think that can be positive if you really want to deep dive into your practice, into your stat, and make yourself better. The other thing they have is they have the Ghost Cornhole, but they do Ghost Cornhole. They've got different ways of doing it. I really haven't looked all the way through as far as how they do it, but I know they've got ones where you can set blocker bags. And you have different ways, you can play a ghost cornhole with the blocker bag, and whether it's a push through or a get around or whatever it is, you can play different ways with that. And I haven't looked so much at how that's set up, but that's very interesting because for those of you who want to practice your playing a game. Maybe you struggle with blockers and you want to practice that. You can go do the ghost cornhole with a blocker bag, and you can keep track of your stats and see improvements on that. And then you can do ghost cornhole with just open board and also keep track of that as well. So it lets you kind of play different style games. There's also a penalty one where if you throw a bag off, you actually lose a point, not just get 0 for that bag, you actually get -1. So a different take on the ghost cornhole as well to try to minimize bags off the board. If that's a weakness, you can do that. So there's a lot of good information here. I haven't really tried it out to see if the execution is as good as what it looks like on here. So again, I'm asking you guys, go check it out. So it's Beyond Boards and Bags. I'll put a link in the description if I remember for you guys to click on to go check it out. Go check it out. I'd love to hear your feedback on that. For those of you who do actually practice, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, if it's something you find beneficial. And maybe if I get a chance, I'll spend some time with it and get a video up on that. But in the meantime, I'd love to kind of crowdsource this and get your guys' feedback on that. The other thing I mentioned is I've been doing putting a lot more content recently, and that's been intentional. I want to get more content out to you guys just to see. I love doing the reviews. The reviews are fun, but I do think there's a need for more content out there, and so that's why I'm doing this kind of podcast thing, because there's a lot of topics that I have thoughts on, I want to share. I just don't have a platform in the reviews to do it. So I feel like this is a better way to do that, as well as the how-to videos. I've been doing one how-to video a week. I got one scheduled to come out tomorrow as well. If you're watching this on Monday, I release this one's got on tomorrow. I'm trying to put them out on Tuesdays. Has been my how-to videos release schedule so far. We'll see if that sticks around. What I'm asking for you guys is give me some more. I mean, I've gotten great feedback on the ones I put out so far. I've got a lot of ideas on future ones to come out. But if there is a how-to video that you want to see, let me know. Drop a comment down below, shoot me a message, let me know what it is you want me to see. I've taken the comments you've made so far, I've made notes of them, so they're great. I'm really looking for specifics, like what's one thing? I want to focus on one thing. I don't want to just go, eventually want to go back and redo my how to throw a flat bag video. I think I want to update that, and that's something that's in the works. Hopefully here soon. I don't know. We'll see how that works out. But I love the idea of just picking one specific thing and focusing on that and drilling that down, because I think that's where I can really dial in your issues, because not everybody has the same problem. So let me know what's the one thing you're struggling with. What's the one area you want me to focus on, and maybe I can get a video out. So looking for your feedback on that. And the last thing I want to talk about is new bags that are coming out with the new seasons. We got, the ACO is rolling out season 20. The ACL's got their 2025 season coming out, and for lights companies, they start releasing new bags. And so I've got some of them on hand, some of them on the way to me to review. I'm going to try to review as many of them as I can. However, just understand that there's a lot of them to do in a short period of time, and so I can't just go do all new bag reviews. I've got, especially the ones, if I'm having to purchase those, I got to space those out to fit them in the budget to make sure that I can get those in to do. The companies that send me bags, if they send me bags, they're always get a priority over the ones I buy. So sometimes you'll see that's kind of how for those who want to know, that's typically how I order my videos. Is if a company sends me bags, they're going to get on the priority list to get through as quick as possible. If I'm buying bags, then it just comes down to personal preference. What bags do I want to see over what bags do I want to review first? Or it also comes down to bags you ask. If I get a lot of questions over a specific bag, then I'll try to push that through a little bit quicker as well, if I'm able to. So, but the new bags I have coming up. In fact, here, I'll pull this list up. I made a short little list here, so if I can pull this up for you guys. And there we go. So this is what I've got. Some of these I've already reviewed. So these are the ones that are on my radar. So if I'm missing one, let me know. Drop a comment down below. I'm sure there's a lot I'm missing. There's a lot that I don't know about. Not just new bags, also bags are being changed. So real quick, I'll run down the list here for those of you on the audio only version of this podcast. Swag Bags has got a new bag called the Wicket, which is going to be a herringbone carpet bag. I don't know the difference with that and the Maniac, other than it looks like a different fast side, but I'm not sure what fast side is going to be on that bag. NOLA has they've revamped the Rougarou. It's the Rougarou X now. They've actually got all new material. So from what I understand, it's going to be the Siva Nighthawk slow side paired with the Sub-Zero Glacier fast side. Brotherhood Guardian X, which is, I actually reviewed that as your review. It's got a new fast side and a mixed fills that paired to the regular Guardian. So if you haven't checked that review out, go watch the Guardian X review from Brotherhood. Buffalo has a new bag called the Inspire X, which, because they've gone away from the ACL this year, they've had to rename their bags. So a lot of their bags have new names, but they're the same as the old bags, although I think they're going to be offering some mixed fill options, different options as well in those bags. There may be some slight changes in those, but the Inspire X, from what I can tell, it looks like it has that Viper R slow side on it. I'm not sure about that fast side, but that's a new material to Buffalo. So that's one that I'm excited to get my hands on a try. Templar Cornhole's got a couple new bags. They've actually had these out for a little bit, maybe a month or so, but the Nefarious and the Diamondbacks, again, Templar is known for unique, different materials, and these look like no exception. They've got some pretty unique slow sides on them. I'm not sure about the fast side, so excited to review those for you guys. Fly Cornhole has the Surge X, which is, and Cornhole Coastal has the Icon, two new bags. Both of them, I think, are the same materials as the Big Mac bags, whatever, that I reviewed. Corner Graphics has got two new bags, the Vice and Role Play. I don't know a lot about those materials yet. I've seen pictures, but I haven't really dug into that too much. Coinslingers has I think it's a new bag called the Apex. Looks like the Brotherhood Guardian slow side on that, the Titan Dart slow side as well. I'm not sure about the fast side, so that's a newer bag. BG came out with the Valkyrie. I already had a review on that. That's been out for a little bit, so check that review out if you haven't seen that. Reynolds is coming out with a new bag called the Tantrum, which is a herringbone carpet bag. I don't know the difference between the Tantrum and the Renegade, other than it looks like a different fast side, I'm guessing. I'm curious to see what that's going to be like. Fire's coming out with a new bag called the Vengeance X, which looks like a faster slow side on the Vengeance, but I'm not sure, because Fire has the incinerator, which is the same fast side as the Vengeance, but a faster slow side. So I'm not sure the difference in the Vengeance X and the incinerator and the regular Vengeance. I'm not sure what materials are putting in there, so I'll have to get my hands on that to see what that is. Southwest Bag Company has the Tatanka and the Chief. I actually got 2 reviews on those already out, so I've already done those reviews. If you haven't checked those out, go check them out on my channel. AAR is coming out with, I think, 4 new bags. They've got the Ripper X and Shockwave X, which they already have the Ripper and Shockwave, but they're making, I think, slight material changes to the fast side, is my understanding on that. I'm not sure completely on those. And then Aftershock and Overdrive, I think, are completely new bags, but I don't know anything about those. Lucky Bags is coming out with the Surefire Elite, which is the same materials as the Southwest Hefe. It's a different hybrid material than what's on the slow side of the Pro Sniper Elites, but they're getting another hybrid material out there on their bags. So look for that review to come out soon. I just got a set of those in the other day. Again, haven't had a chance to throw them, try them out. So that's a review, should be out in a couple weeks. Black Flag has got 2 new bags. The Swindle, which is another Guardian Dart hybrid slow side material. I don't know the fast side on that. And then the doubloon. I don't know. I struggle saying this word. For some reason, I have a hard time saying this. The doubloon, which is a herringbone carpet bag. Also, Stuff Cornhole has a bag called the Pure, which is a herringbone carpet bag. And then Killshots has a new bag called Hellfire, which is a herringbone carpet bag. So a lot of herringbone bags in there coming out. A lot of new bags. I'm sure I've missed a ton. There's probably 3 times as many as what I've covered over. So if I haven't listed it there, drop a comment down below, send me a message, let me know, just to make sure it's on my radar, because I want to make sure I get as many of these new bags reviewed done as I can. It's just going to take some time. Give me a few weeks, give me a few months to get through these, because even though I'm doing 3 bags a week, I still have other bags to kind of mix in. I've got some bags that I want to go back and revisit that I've reviewed in the past that they've made some changes to, like Lucky Bags has changed the Luciano, and I want to go back and re-review that because I didn't like the bag that I reviewed when they released it. But it sounds like the new version of the bag is better. And I think they changed that bag when I reviewed it for last year, and they're making another change to it for the 2025 season. So I want to get my hands on a set of those to see how they change and if they're better than what they were when I first reviewed them. There are other bags out there that I think are getting some changes, whether it's a template change or a fill change, that I do want to get my hands on at some point. If I feel like the change is going to make a difference in the review I did, I want to re-review them. If it's a small change that maybe is not going to make a big difference, I may not get to those. We'll see. But drop a comment down below. Let me know which new bags that I haven't listed here you want to see, or which ones I have on here. What bags do you want to see first? Because maybe that'll help determine which ones I review when. So I love all the feedback you guys are giving me. I love the comments, you telling me that you like the content I'm putting out, and I love the ideas you're giving me of new future content to come out with or changes you want to see made. In the end, I want this content to be what you want to watch, because if you guys aren't watching it, there's no point in me putting it out. So let me know what you do like, what you don't like, so I know what to keep doing and I know what to change. Just let me know. I appreciate it. You know, I can take it. If you don't like something, don't be afraid to tell me you don't like it. I want to know that, as opposed to not telling me and I keep doing it and no one wants to watch it. So as always, I thank you guys so much for your support, and I thank you for watching.